The cell door at Big Sandy slammed loud, and somebody whispered that Prince would never breathe free air again, dropping a quiet line that sounded like a warning. Some folks swore he got touched in that yard, while others claimed he played a whole system like a chessboard until nobody understood his next move. A few even said he was already a ghost long before the feds locked everything down around him. Nobody truly agreed on that ending, and the streets kept pushing different stories without stopping. To understand how a quiet kid from South Jamaica became a feared name from Queens to federal courtrooms, we need to roll everything back to where it truly started. South Jamaica carried a worn-out heaviness, shaped by shuttered factories, empty warehouses, and long blocks where flickering streetlights cast more warning than comfort. Baisley Park houses sat in the middle of it all, holding families trying to survive days that moved slow, while elders remembered a time when steady jobs still existed. Boarded buildings became normal, store gates stayed half closed, and kids walked past corners where older crews talked fast money to break the boredom. Police cruised through without connection, leaving young black boys feeling examined but never protected, building resentment that shaped how they saw the world early. Pressure sat thick over the neighborhood, especially once drugs pushed into corners where teens once played ball. Small crews formed fast, running car snatches, grabbing radios and disappearing into stairwells before anyone blinked. These petty moves became training. Kids watched alleys, counted footsteps, sharpened instincts. Trouble felt routine. Danger felt expected. Teachings from the 5% nation drifted through these blocks during those years, passed through parliaments, benches, and hallway debates. Peace gods filled notebooks with mathematics, spoke about discipline and identity, and offered young boys something bigger than their surroundings. Gerald Miller listened quietly. Word as bond stuck with him, and he carried it like a rule long before he understood how far it would follow him. He watched older teens flip small hustles on Jamaica Avenue, learning the rhythm of street opportunity. He saw crews strip cars overnight, watched bags get snatched and sold, noticed how quick movement could turn coins into bills. It was a survival ecosystem, messy but consistent enough to teach him timing. Kenneth Supreme McGriff was already a presence then, long before headlines caught up. Gerald studied him from a distance, seeing how respect formed around charisma and strategy rather than loud behavior. Supreme's early circle blended structure with hustle, creating the foundation that would shape the Supreme team and eventually shape Gerald himself. South Jamaica produced legends quickly, often before facts had a chance to settle. Kids traded wild stories as if they were scripture, growing reputations in playgrounds and rooftops until they sounded mythical. In that kind of environment, it wasn't surprising when Queens birthed one of its biggest rumors, that Gerald Prince Miller ran a heroin empire at 15. It spread everywhere. Barbershops, block parties, prison yards. People repeated it with full confidence, helped by the neighborhood's love for turning young names into folklore. Prince sounded like someone who could fit that legend, especially once his reputation for violence and discipline grew later. But the paperwork never agreed. His early years reflected burglary charges, petty snatches and small hustles, not narcotics networks. His name didn't hold weight in serious investigations until after his 1984 release from a burglary sentence. Part of the confusion came from another teenage dealer, Boy George, who ran an actual heroin ring in Manhattan. People mixed timelines, mixed names, and loved the idea of teenage prodigies. Street magazines, DVDs, and hood documentaries leaned into sensational versions of the story, blending details for shock value rather than accuracy. Hip-hop added fuel, sprinkling references to Supreme and Prince in lyrics that blurred fact and legend. Fans repeated them like truth. The Supreme team's later federal cases made everything sound believable anyway, since the crew already carried a reputation big enough to support any rumor. People held on to the myth because it made Prince sound born for the streets, a prodigy raised in chaos with instant command. But the truth carried its own weight. His rise came slowly, built through quiet observation, small steps, discipline from 5% lessons, and the structure his uncle helped shape. He didn't need fairy tales to stand out. His real story was already heavy enough. Stories around Queens kept shifting during those early years, and the streets carried a new energy once crack started creeping through corners where young hustlers hung daily. Gerald Miller stepped back into this environment in July 1984, walking out after a burglary sentence that showed him just how quickly trouble could pull a young kid toward deeper streets. He returned to South Jamaica expecting familiar sounds, finding a neighborhood moving with louder footsteps and bigger temptations than he remembered. Boys he knew from childhood held fresh confidence, moving like they belonged to something larger than regular block life. Crack arrived heavy in the area during the mid-'80s, turning simple corners into non-stop marketplaces where vials clicked against each other inside small bags. Junkies hovered near Baisley Boulevard, calling for colors that represented different crews working the same stretch of buildings. The once quiet peace gods grew into something more organized, moving from philosophical circles into a structured operation that demanded discipline. The Supreme Team positioned itself near Baisley Park houses, pushing lines that caught everybody's eyes, especially young men interested in real money. Gerald watched things shift quickly, noticing how strategy replaced simple hustles. The crew took shape under Kenneth Supreme McGriff, who carried natural leadership that impressed many boys from South Jamaica, guiding them into roles that felt almost official. James "Bimmy" Antony held one lane, showing strength without losing charm that kept many sellers close to him. Colbert "Black Just" Johnson worked another section, known for his calm presence during tense moments. Troy "Babywise" Jones focused on operations that demanded reliability, standing near rooftops or stairwells with steady attention. Gerald, now carrying the name Prince, joined this circle and began finding his position within the growing structure. The streets recognized the Supreme Team quickly, noticing their coordinated lookouts placed carefully on rooftops across Baisley Park houses. These lookouts scanned every street for police units, calling warnings through walkie-talkies linked into cellars positioned near handball courts and fence lines. Lookouts used coded numbers during transmissions, making it difficult for police to understand any message exchanged by the crew. Each vial carried a colored top representing specific crews, helping buyers identify their favorite product without speaking loudly in risky areas. This system made the operation effective, creating a rhythm many rivals struggled to copy successfully. Prince oversaw the yellow top vials, which created a signature for customers who trusted his product during late nights or early mornings. Workers carrying these vials followed strict instructions, keeping bundles tucked safely in pockets or socks to avoid fast losses during unexpected chases. Sellers moved in short patterns across designated zones, staying within boundaries marked mentally by older members who controlled every section. The crew functioned with an energy similar to organized units, pushing codes and habits that felt almost military to outsiders watching from windows or stoops. The shift from regular street behavior toward structured operations happened faster than many realized, fueled by growing demand on blocks stretching from Sutphin Boulevard to Guy R. Brewer Boulevard. Prince quickly positioned himself as an enforcer for the team, handling disputes, calming tensions, and stepping into confrontations that threatened the flow of business. His reputation grew quietly, shaped by moments where he handled problems without raising his voice or pushing unnecessary attention toward himself. People described him as calm but dangerous, a combination that created whispers throughout South Jamaica long before police understood his name. Robberies hit different corners during those days, as rival crews attempted to snatch product or disrupt Supreme Team operations by striking stash spots. Prince responded during these events with decisive action, showing an intensity that impressed older members who valued composure during fast movements. Sellers trusted him to resolve internal disputes, settling fights between younger boys who lost focus or shifted attention during busy nights. The crew valued discipline heavily, punishing late arrivals, sloppy work, or careless behavior that threatened the entire structure. Prince supported these rules firmly, helping leadership maintain order across multiple buildings and courtyards. The early crack years pushed many young men into darker spaces, and Prince saw firsthand how violence mixed with business during chaotic nights near Baisley Park houses. Shootouts erupted occasionally when rival crews attempted to step into territories controlled by the Supreme Team. Prince witnessed these moments closely, learning tactical habits from older members who valued positioning and awareness during hostile encounters. These lessons shaped his approach, reinforcing a mentality that prioritized precision and steady thinking over reckless reactions. His skills improved with practice, transforming him into a reliable figure during high-pressure situations. People around South Jamaica started noticing his presence, describing him in hushed tones when discussing the crew's most impressive members. Kids playing near playground fences mentioned seeing him walk through courtyards with steady posture, never rushing or panicking during stressful moments. Older teenagers admired his ability to remain unbothered even when sirens passed close or officers parked near hydrants during patrols. This consistency built his profile slowly, allowing him to rise naturally within the team without unnecessary attention. His growing influence shaped the routines of younger sellers who respected his leadership style. The Supreme Team depended heavily on structure, and Prince followed this expectation carefully to maintain order among those working under him. He expected organization from his sellers, ensuring they kept products separated, counted, and stored properly before nightly shifts. He encouraged strict movement patterns that prevented confusion or overlap between sellers working close together. This approach supported the team's stability, preventing miscommunications during tense moments involving law enforcement or rival crews. Prince operated with quiet determination that gained the trust of many within the team's hierarchy. Early conflicts with other crews tested the team's discipline, especially when groups from nearby blocks attempted to challenge established boundaries. Prince approached these challenges with controlled aggression, stepping into situations without fear or hesitation. His strategic mindset impressed fellow members who recognized his ability to read movements, predict outcomes, and respond effectively. These confrontations established his position as a key figure within the organization long before federal authorities noticed his growing reputation. His presence during these events showed that he was becoming more than another young hustler seeking quick profits. Prince's transformation from a quiet boy influenced by 5% teachings into a respected lieutenant happened during this period, shaped by the crack explosion and the Supreme Team's growth. Stories about him circulated through corners and rooftops, shared by sellers who appreciated his steady nature. People learned that he avoided unnecessary noise, choosing silence during moments where others panicked. This silence became part of his legend, helping build the idea that Prince represented calm danger within a world increasingly fueled by fast money and unpredictable violence. South Jamaica moved fast during the mid-80s, and the Supreme Team grew bigger with every passing month, drawing heavy attention from law enforcement watching the entire crew with growing concern. Kenneth Supreme McGriff stood at the center of everything, carrying a presence that attracted respect from every corner near Baisley Park houses. His name carried weight, and police units tracked his movements closely, gathering information through undercover operations and steady surveillance across major hotspots. In 1985, trouble came hard for Supreme, bringing arrests that shifted momentum in ways nobody expected. Supreme's first major hit arrived during a federal investigation targeting narcotics activity within Queens, pulling him into courtrooms where prosecutors pushed detailed claims about drug distribution. Officers linked him to crews working across several blocks, connecting him with sellers who moved colored vials nightly. By 1986, more charges stacked up, adding conspiracies and possession counts that strengthened the government's position against him. Court hearings included testimony from witnesses describing operations near Baisley Park houses, making Supreme a priority for federal agents determined to shut everything down. These legal battles weakened his ability to lead, forcing him into confinement during long stretches. In 1987, Supreme faced another conviction tied to firearm possession, placing him under heavier restrictions that prevented him from guiding the team properly. This conviction helped federal authorities tighten their hold, securing additional penalties that removed him from the streets entirely. Once he entered federal custody, the Supreme Team lost its main architect, forcing younger members to handle decisions requiring calm leadership. This shift created uncertainty within the crew, pushing everyone to search for someone capable of filling the gap without losing control of the empire. The leadership vacuum created a critical moment where the streets needed a steady figure capable of maintaining order during a chaotic period. Gerald Prince Miller stepped forward naturally, gaining trust from members who respected his discipline and sharp instincts during stressful moments. He understood the structure already in place, recognizing how important it was to keep sellers organized and focused. His quiet demeanor helped him gather influence quickly, turning him into a central voice within the operation as older members faded under pressure. Prince moved with confidence, guiding the team with decisions that strengthened their position on every corner. Prince reorganized the entire operation with a level of precision that impressed many within the team, shifting from casual routines toward more structured systems that resembled professional organizations. He introduced numbered codes for communication, allowing sellers to alert one another without exposing sensitive details during fast situations. Teams trained through drills that prepared them for sudden raids, teaching every worker how to secure product quickly under pressure. Shifts rotated throughout the day, creating cycles that ensured constant street activity without overwhelming any single crew. Stash houses located across South Jamaica held inventory, keeping supply lines steady through unpredictable nights. Prince moved through the neighborhood in a bulletproof BMW, a vehicle that represented status and strength throughout Queens during these years. This car carried reinforced panels and protected windows, helping Prince survive attempted ambushes launched by rivals seeking to disrupt the Supreme Team's hold on the crack trade. People recognized the vehicle from far away, treating it like a symbol of power whenever it rolled through Sutphin Boulevard or Baisley Boulevard. The BMW became part of Prince's identity, showing his rise within the team without him saying a word. Hustlers mentioned it daily, calling it a reminder of how serious things had become. Violence increased noticeably after Prince stepped into his leadership role, shaping the environment around the Supreme Team with stricter rules and heavier consequences for mistakes. Sellers learned quickly that sloppy behavior brought punishment, and many corrected their habits to avoid trouble from internal enforcers linked to Prince. Rivals attempting to test the team often encountered fast retaliation from soldiers eager to protect their ground. This atmosphere kept the operation sharp, ensuring outsiders understood the risks of crossing lines marked by the Supreme Team. Prince pushed for order, shaping an environment where structure became the backbone of everything. The business grew massively during this period, pushing daily earnings near $200,000 across multiple housing projects and surrounding streets. Crack moved rapidly through the hands of buyers who trusted the product associated with the Supreme Team branding, creating a steady stream of income that rarely slowed. Workers across stairwells and courtyards followed tight schedules, ensuring product never ran low during busy hours. Prince managed these flows with strict calculations, reviewing numbers gathered from sellers at designated meeting spots. These earnings strengthened the team's influence, giving them reach beyond South Jamaica. Prince viewed the operation differently from Supreme, applying colder strategies that minimized unnecessary interactions and maximized efficiency. He focused heavily on fear as a tool for control, establishing a presence that discouraged theft, betrayal, and rival interference. His decisions felt calculated, guided by logic rather than emotion, turning him into a leader who measured every move carefully. Members under him followed instructions closely, trusting his approach during nights when police activity spiked around Baisley Park houses. His leadership gave the operation stability even during constant pressure from authorities and hostile crews. The streets created a narrative around Prince, calling him the muscle behind the Supreme Team long before newspapers printed his name in organized crime stories. Hustlers described moments where his calm stare sent clear messages to anyone thinking about crossing the team's rules. Older heads mentioned his ability to settle disputes without raising his voice, using presence rather than chaos to maintain control. His steady influence shaped a culture where fear and respect existed side by side, helping define the Supreme Team's identity during the late mid-80s. Prince grew into a figure many considered untouchable during these years. Prince's rise happened quickly once Supreme lost the ability to lead from the streets, turning him into the main force keeping the team united. His structure, discipline, and intensity shaped the operation into something stronger than before, guiding South Jamaica through a period where crack controlled every alley and corner. The legend of his strength grew more noticeable, pulling his name into conversations across Queens and surrounding boroughs. His leadership defined the era, setting the stage for everything that followed as federal agents prepared their next steps. The mid-80s moved into darker territory for the Supreme Team, and Prince gained a reputation that stretched past South Jamaica once bodies started turning up in patterns that connected directly to his name. The Bolden brothers case marked a turning point, giving the streets a chilling preview of how serious Prince operated when threats appeared close. James Bolden and Bruce Bolden shared ties with certain members inside the neighborhood, dealing with crews that sometimes flirted with betrayal when money tightened. The situation escalated when a parole officer allegedly fed information about the Bolden schedules and movements, giving Prince detailed access that helped him locate them quickly. The Boldens wound up dead under circumstances that shook South Jamaica, fueling conversations about how the Supreme Team handled problems involving potential setups. Their murders showed clear planning, signaling that Prince gathered intelligence from sources within official systems rather than relying on street speculation alone. People whispered about his ability to obtain private information quietly, using contacts willing to trade secrets for cash or protection. These whispers painted him as someone operating with precision, treating every threat like an obstacle requiring immediate removal. The Bolden case built early layers of fear around his name. Information flowed toward Prince through individuals holding government positions, and some reports indicated certain officers approved secret exchanges for personal gain. These corrupt channels helped him uncover parole violations, meeting locations and background details on individuals considered dangerous to the team. The streets learned quickly that Prince received information from places nobody expected, creating paranoia within rival groups who feared their own allies might be leaking details. This environment allowed Prince to stay ahead of problems, neutralizing targets before they executed their own plans. His advantage grew with every secret delivered to him through these compromised sources. The Colombian supplier case elevated his reputation further, turning the streets quiet once details began circulating through Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. 4 Colombian men connected to a cocaine supply pipeline disappeared after disagreements regarding shipments and payment amounts. Rumors spread that Prince confronted them inside a Queens stash location, where arguments escalated rapidly. Reports claimed that plastic bags were used to suffocate victims, while a bat delivered crushing blows that left no chance of survival. Their bodies were later dumped near the Harlem River, creating a chilling scene that investigators struggled to untangle. Tension between Prince and those suppliers came from disputes linked to weak product batches, altered counts, and unpaid balances related to earlier deliveries. The Colombian crew possibly attempted to short the team, hoping Prince would overlook the details due to his busy schedule. These assumptions proved reckless, leading to a violent outcome that reminded outsiders how unforgiving the crack trade became during these years. Individuals dealing with the Supreme Team learned that disagreements rarely ended with discussions. Prince demanded respect and precision, especially when dealing with suppliers in charge of major pipeline links connecting New York and overseas contacts. The death of Gus Rivera added another heavy chapter, showing how far Prince would go when confronted with disrespect or deception. Rivera reportedly played both sides during a heated period, working with the Supreme Team while engaging in actions that threatened their operations. When Prince confronted him, things spiraled into brutality that reflected the growing intensity of the era. Rivera was allegedly restrained and tortured during interrogations that focused on uncovering missing money, stolen product, and secret alliances. His final moments involved extreme violence that left investigators stunned once his body surfaced. This murder demonstrated the harsh consequences tied to betrayal. Internal discipline grew intense under Prince, shaping the team into a controlled organization that functioned with fear as a guiding force. Members suspected of stealing small amounts of product faced violent punishment inside abandoned buildings or hidden basements across South Jamaica. Certain individuals disappeared after accusations of snitching or loose conversations with law enforcement surfaced, leading to allegations that Prince ordered quiet hits against them. Soldiers carried out these missions without hesitation, maintaining loyalty toward Prince and reinforcing the culture he built. These acts strengthened his position while removing unstable members that threatened the team's stability. Snitching accusations triggered some of the harshest punishments under Prince's leadership, prompting immediate action against individuals believed to be cooperating with detectives. Sellers learned quickly that careless conversations or suspicious behavior could end their involvement permanently through violent consequences. Stories circulated among young hustlers, describing how Prince handled these situations with a cold temperament that left no room for negotiation. His ability to maintain order through fear preserved the team's operations, even when police pressure increased significantly across Queens. Many members understood the risks, adjusting their behavior accordingly to avoid suspicion. Disputes related to money distribution, arrogance, or street disrespect also triggered responses from enforcers loyal to Prince, creating an environment where emotional outbursts resulted in long-term consequences. These cleanups kept the team focused, preventing internal chaos from weakening their grip on profitable territories. Prince believed in swift consequences, encouraging members to remain disciplined during every shift. His leadership guided the crew through volatile nights involving rival crews, undercover agents, and unpredictable customers wandering through stairwells. This approach solidified his image as someone unwilling to tolerate reckless behavior inside the organization. As bodies continued appearing in dumpsters, rivers, and empty fields, fear surrounding Prince grew into a massive legend that traveled far outside South Jamaica. People described him using cold phrases whispered across corners, telling younger hustlers that Prince didn't send warnings, he sent messages. These messages involved brutal scenes that encouraged silence and respect throughout communities tied to the crack economy. Law enforcement noticed patterns of violence linked to the Supreme Team, struggling to gather sufficient evidence during investigations clouded by terrified witnesses. The growing list of victims pressed authorities to build stronger cases. Prince's rising notoriety strengthened the Supreme Team's image as one of the most disciplined and feared crews in New York during the mid-'80s, shaping a legacy that influenced street culture for decades. His willingness to eliminate threats with a precise method created a rule book enforced through violence, secrecy, and unwavering control. The heavy atmosphere surrounding him shaped every decision made by members working under his guidance. His reign produced a trail of fear that hung over Queens, preparing the city for intensified law enforcement retaliation. South Jamaica stretched across long blocks, shaped by tension, money, and heavy movement that never slowed, creating a map filled with corners controlled by crews that watched each other daily. Baisley Park houses stood as the main home base for the Supreme Team, forming a stronghold that operated from building lobbies to rooftop lookout posts. Sutphin Boulevard carried constant foot traffic, with sellers drifting through stores, laundromats, and bus stops, while buyers moved between side streets. Guy R. Brewer Boulevard held another stream of hustlers, where traffic flowed endlessly past diners, gas stations, and crowded parking lots. Hollis and St. Albans formed important outer areas, where Supreme Team members maintained friendships, business ties, and alliances that help secure routes for product and cash. These neighborhoods shaped the Supreme Team's world, creating a network that stretched across southeastern Queens from sunrise until deep night hours. Every block carried its own energy, filled with familiar faces and dangerous possibilities for anyone stepping out of line. Prince understood these territories fully, knowing every shortcut, alley, and staircase linking the Supreme Team's movement across neighborhoods. The team's main rivals included crews connected to Lorenzo "Fat Cat" Nichols, who controlled sections around 150th Street and often clashed with others seeking access to profitable zones. Fat Cat had serious strength, backed by experienced shooters and hustlers who followed his direction without hesitation. Pappy Mason represented another threat, running operations around South Jamaica that demanded respect from anyone crossing his territory. His reputation as a fearless figure created tension whenever his name appeared in conversations involving the Supreme Team. These rivalries created a citywide landscape crowded with unpredictable movement that kept the team alert constantly. Alliances shifted repeatedly as money flowed through Queens, shaping decisions that could strengthen or weaken entire organizations depending on timing. Prince and his circle worked with certain Dominican suppliers who controlled major cocaine pipelines reaching into New York, creating necessary partnerships that kept product moving. These suppliers valued reliability, often choosing to work with the Supreme Team due to their structured operations and steady payments. Ties with other Queens crews formed through shared interests, usually involving transportation networks or storage locations, requiring cooperation between groups. These relationships created momentum for everyone involved. Conflicts erupted frequently whenever alliances failed, pushing Prince into situations requiring strategy, patience, and precise timing. Disagreements over product quality, missed payments, or territorial misunderstandings created bursts of violence, changing alliances into rivalries instantly. Prince navigated these situations through measured responses, keeping his crew stable even during unpredictable moments across multiple boroughs. The Supreme Team held tight control over their areas, making sure outsiders understood the risk of stepping beyond agreed boundaries. Many crews respected this structure, avoiding direct confrontations whenever possible. The streets carried stories that added layers to Prince's growing legend, including tales claiming he crossed paths with Wayne Perry from Washington, D.C. during chaotic moments involving interstate connections. These stories varied widely, with some describing conversations about mutual respect between two feared figures. Other rumors linked Prince to conflicts involving the Preacher Crew, who operated with violent tactics that frightened many across New York. Unverified tales surfaced often, told by hustlers seeking validation through dramatic storytelling during late-night gatherings. These stories spread quickly, shaping Prince into a larger figure than records fully confirmed. The Supreme Team's discipline separated them from other crews operating during the mid-80s, creating a blueprint that influenced many groups across New York. Members trained daily through routines that taught them how to observe surroundings and move without attracting unwanted attention. Lookouts stood on rooftops with binoculars, scanning every direction for signs of unmarked cars, undercover officers or rival crews approaching sensitive locations. These lookouts called codes through walkie-talkies, creating a communication line that alerted sellers before danger reached courtyards or hallways. Dealers lined up in organized formations near Baisley Park, keeping vials arranged neatly inside bags, prepared for fast exchanges during busy hours. They followed strict rules, controlling how they approached customers, limiting unnecessary conversations to reduce risks created by nosy buyers or hidden officers. Runners moved between buildings delivering product to sellers stationed at different corners, maintaining a steady rhythm that kept operations flowing. This system impressed outsiders who recognized the Supreme Team's efficiency during nights when other crews struggled to maintain order. Sirens echoed throughout South Jamaica constantly, bouncing off building walls and carrying through alleys where officers chased suspects nightly. Cops swarmed blocks without warning, rushing staircases and basements while lookouts screamed alerts that spread instantly. These raids created chaos for many crews, yet the Supreme Team often avoided major losses through fast communication and practice movements. Their discipline frustrated detectives who spent countless hours tracking members across rooftops, courtyards, and busy intersections. Prince thrived in this environment, guiding operations through calm decision-making and clear expectations that shaped how every member behaved on the streets. His influence extended across block lines, creating a reputation recognized by hustlers from Hollis to St. Albans. The Supreme Team stood strong during this period, locked into a network of allies, rivals, and unstable connections that defined New York's crack era. Their battles across South Jamaica framed the rising tension that would soon push them into deeper conflict with law enforcement, determined to dismantle everything. Queens shifted into a storm Once Officer Edward Byrne got murdered in February 1988, triggering political outrage that pushed New York officials into a heavy crackdown across every neighborhood linked to drug activity. Byrne had been guarding a witness tied to a case involving Lorenzo "Fat Cat" Nichols, and his killing sent shockwaves through the city instantly. Newspapers blasted headlines daily, stressing that drug crews controlled streets without fear, and politicians demanded rapid action from police leadership. The entire atmosphere changed, placing Queens under one of the most intense law enforcement operations in its history. Operation Pressure Point hit New York first, targeting busy corridors and violent pockets across several boroughs, flooding blocks with uniformed officers moving in tight formations. Soon after, NYPD launched tactical narcotics teams, known as TNT, sending squads into South Jamaica with instructions to dismantle any organization considered a threat. TNT units arrived hard, rolling down Guy R. Brewer Boulevard and Sutphin Boulevard in unmarked cars that watched every corner near Baisley Park houses. Their raids became constant, striking projects repeatedly, with teams armed with detailed warrants and thick case files. These actions hit several crews quickly, leaving lasting impact across neighborhoods. DEA, ATF, and FBI joined these efforts, forming multi-agency task forces designed to hit large drug organizations operating throughout Queens and Brooklyn. Helicopters circled blocks at night, shining powerful lights onto courtyards where sellers once moved freely. Agents used surveillance vans to track vehicles connected to key figures, following them between stash houses, apartments, and meeting spots. Investigations grew deeper as agencies pooled intelligence, matching conversations from wiretaps with observations gathered by undercover officers. This cooperation created pressure that forced crews to change routines constantly. Raids grew more precise, cutting into the Supreme Team's structure through sudden hits on stash houses located near Foch Boulevard, 109th Avenue, and other hidden pockets of South Jamaica. Officers smashed through doors early in the morning, grabbing product, cash, and communication devices before sellers reacted. Helicopters hovered above rooftops, where lookouts once stood calmly, forcing many to abandon their positions during chaotic nights. Warrant teams stormed basements and garages, dragging suspects out as neighbors watched from windows. These coordinated hits made the streets unpredictable, turning every night into a guessing game for hustlers. Prince saw the growing heat and moved quickly to adjust operations, tightening security around every worker connected to the team. He shifted stash spots frequently, forcing runners to memorize new routes between apartments used for storing vials and cash. Meetings took place in abandoned buildings instead of open courtyards, reducing the risk of wiretaps recording critical conversations. Sellers received new rules regarding movement, product handling, and communication, preventing loose behavior that attracted police attention. Prince reviewed information from lookouts daily, checking for signs of undercover activity in surrounding blocks. Paranoia began spreading among members as law enforcement presence increased heavily across the neighborhood, pushing everyone into a heightened state of caution. Prince rotated shifts aggressively, preventing TNT units from predicting patterns that guided nightly sales. Some sellers relocated temporarily to areas near Hollis or St. Albans, where police saturation levels moved slightly slower. Prince demanded sharper discipline, reminding everyone that mistakes attracted raids faster than anything. His leadership helped the Supreme Team maintain operations, despite overwhelming pressure from officers assigned to end their grip on the crack economy. Law enforcement ranked the Supreme Team among top targets after focusing earlier attention on Fat Cat and Pappy Mason, who carried reputations tied to major violence during the mid-'80s. Many investigators believed the Supreme Team represented a powerful structure capable of generating significant income while maintaining tight control over large territories. Their discipline frustrated detectives, making the team appear more resilient than other crews operating across New York. As Fat Cat and Mason caught lengthy sentences, authorities viewed Prince as the next major figure requiring full pressure. Reporters wrote about the Supreme Team frequently during this period, highlighting how their organization stayed strong despite heavy raids and federal investigations. Court documents connected them to major cocaine distribution networks, listing names associated with stash houses, street dealers, and higher-level operatives. Prince's name appeared in several internal memos circulated by detectives, identifying him as a significant controller of operations tied to Baisley Park houses. These memos warned officers to approach certain situations with caution, acknowledging Prince's influence over armed members positioned strategically throughout the neighborhood. TNT prepared a massive coordinated raid in 1990, aiming to hit the Supreme Team and affiliated members across multiple locations simultaneously. Officers gathered intelligence for months, tracking routines, identifying stash locations and building evidence to support sweeping arrests. On the morning of the operation, units moved into South Jamaica with vans, trucks, and backup teams prepared for resistance. They kicked down doors, detained dozens, and seized large quantities of product linked to the team. This raid marked a major blow to the Supreme Team's structure, signaling that law enforcement intended to dismantle everything Prince built. The late 1980s turned New York courtrooms into battlegrounds whenever Prince entered a building wearing chains around his wrists, carrying the look of a man studying everything quietly without fear. Prosecutors lined up multiple murder charges against him, claiming he handled hits across Queens with a ruthless precision. These cases involved victims linked to drug disputes, robberies, stolen product, and personal conflicts that grew deadly within the Supreme Team's world. Police documented testimonies from witnesses who described moments tied to violent scenes believed to involve Prince and his associates. These witnesses often appeared terrified, arriving under protection, surrounded by officers guiding them inside court buildings. Witness intimidation became a major problem for prosecutors once trials began, creating delays that stretched each case longer than expected. Some witnesses received threatening messages during late nights, pushing them to rethink cooperation during investigations. Others moved out of state suddenly, leaving prosecutors scrambling to locate them before scheduled hearings. Several individuals recanted earlier statements, claiming they no longer remembered critical details involving murders tied to Supreme Team operations. These recantations left detectives angry and frustrated, realizing that Prince's reach extended far into neighborhoods where fear controlled conversations. Prince shocked many people by choosing to represent himself in certain hearings, stepping into courtrooms wearing sneakers and prison greens while carrying thick folders packed with legal notes. He questioned officers confidently, pushing them to explain holes within investigations that lacked clear evidence. Judges watched him maneuver through objections, learning the courtroom language quickly and speaking with calm authority that impressed observers. He filed motions targeting procedural issues, challenging warrants, lineups, and witness statements that prosecutors considered essential. His approach created chaos for district attorneys, forcing them to respond to technical points they were not expecting. Delays became one of Prince's favorite tactics, turning simple hearings into long legal battles that drained the system nearly empty. He filed paperwork repeatedly, pushing for new hearings, appealing rulings, and requesting additional discovery that slowed everything further. These moves exhausted witness protection budgets, causing the state to spend large amounts keeping vulnerable witnesses housed and guarded for long stretches. Prosecutors grumbled privately about how difficult it became to maintain cooperation from witnesses who waited months or years for trials to proceed. Prince seemed to enjoy this pressure, walking back to holding cells with a slight smirk that frustrated law enforcement deeply. One by one, several cases against Prince collapsed due to recantations, missing witnesses, technical flaws, and legal stalling that undermined the prosecution's strategy. Judges dismissed charges or reduced counts after evidence weakened significantly during long delays that drained momentum. Every time Prince walked out of a case untouched, whispers spread through South Jamaica, claiming he beat another murder that prosecutors believed they had secured. Officers slammed desks in precinct rooms, knowing their hard work failed to secure convictions during trials they expected to win. Prince stepped out smiling each time, feeding rumors that the system could not cage him, no matter how hard it tried. These repeated victories created the nickname Mr. Untouchable, a title whispered by hustlers, bystanders, and even certain officers who recognized his uncanny courtroom survival. Young hustlers studying the Supreme Team admired his calm actions inside buildings where most defendants panicked under pressure. Rumors around Rikers Island described Prince lecturing other inmates on courtroom strategy, teaching them how to identify weak evidence and challenge detectives effectively. His reputation grew with every dismissed charge, adding weight to his already powerful image on the streets where legends formed quickly. Prosecutors and detectives grew furious, claiming Prince manipulated the system using intimidation, stalling tactics, and legal acrobatics that drained resources. They documented his movements carefully, gathering details from surveillance teams, tracking his associates across Queens. Internal meetings included debates about how to build stronger cases that avoided witness reliance entirely. Detectives wrote reports describing his courtroom behavior, noting how he exploited procedural mistakes that prosecutors overlooked. These frustrations pushed law enforcement toward a new strategy aimed at removing him permanently from the streets. The silver platter doctrine became the turning point, allowing state authorities to transfer evidence to federal agencies without violating jurisdictional rules. Federal prosecutors reviewed stacks of documents from Queens cases, noticing patterns involving murder, racketeering, drug trafficking, and organized violence. They studied Prince's past victories, identifying weaknesses they planned to avoid during federal prosecution. The feds held broader powers, stronger witness programs, and deeper investigative tools capable of handling cases that state prosecutors struggled to maintain. Their involvement marked a significant shift in the battle against the Supreme Team. As the 1980s closed, federal authorities prepared a RICO case designed to dismantle the Supreme Team entirely, focusing heavily on Prince's leadership during critical years. This approach allowed prosecutors to combine multiple acts into a single sweeping indictment, reducing reliance on fragile witness testimony. Investigators interviewed former associates, examined seized ledgers, and analyzed statements from imprisoned individuals seeking favorable deals. Every detail from earlier state failures helped shape a federal strategy intended to secure convictions without room for error. Prosecutors worked quietly, building a structure that connected Prince to murders, drugs, and coordinated violence occurring throughout South Jamaica. They prepared grand jury presentations using classified intelligence, surveillance footage, and testimonies from individuals previously afraid to speak publicly. This preparation signaled a new era where Prince faced a level of pressure he had never encountered during his earlier battles with state courts. The government prepared to change everything, aiming to end his run as Mr. Untouchable permanently. The federal government moved into position once the RICO strategy formed, gathering every document, statement, and recorded conversation connected to Prince and the Supreme Team. A grand jury returned a massive indictment that named multiple defendants, listing murders, drug trafficking, and violent acts used to enforce control across South Jamaica. This indictment pulled Prince into a federal arena where prosecutors held sharper tools and stronger protections for witnesses willing to speak. The government framed the case as a long-running criminal enterprise involving organized leadership, strict discipline, and acts carried out to maintain dominance. Several names appeared across the indictment, including Gerald Prince Miller, Kenneth Supreme McGriff, Troy Babywise Jones, Colbert Black Just Johnson, and other members involved in the team's structure. Prosecutors argued that each person contributed to a machine that blended profit with bloodshed. Investigators displayed photos of stash houses, maps of territories, and diagrams explaining communication patterns between members. This multi-defendant structure allowed prosecutors to combine violent episodes with major drug distribution counts, painting a clear portrait of an enterprise built for profit through street control. It became one of Queens' most detailed federal cases. Testimony from former associates played a major role, especially individuals like Ernesto Pinella and Trent Morris, who described operations from inside vantage points. Pinella outlined drug shipments, explaining meetings with members who transported cocaine into Queens during busy periods. Morris detailed violent incidents, describing moments involving retaliation, punishment, and confrontations with rivals. Their testimonies helped prosecutors connect Prince to decisions that shaped the team's grip over Baisley Park and surrounding neighborhoods. Both men spoke under heavy security, arriving in court escorted by officers who monitored every movement closely. Wiretaps provided another major piece of evidence, capturing coded conversations involving members discussing product, money, and enforcement strategies. These recordings featured numbers, phrases, and references that agents decoded through months of analysis. Federal employees presented transcripts showing calls where sellers warned about police activity or requested fresh shipments from stash locations. Agents seized vials with colored tops connected to crews run by Prince and other leaders, matching them with ledgers found inside apartments used for packaging. These seizures created a paper trail linking members to large amounts of crack moved across Queens daily. Prosecutors showed photographs of cash piles, pager messages, and hand-drawn charts describing rotations for sellers during busy shifts. These visuals gave jurors a look at the organization's depth, revealing how the Supreme Team operated with precision across multiple housing projects. A video presentation included surveillance images of members exchanging product during undercover operations near Sutphin Boulevard. These materials strengthened the argument that the team worked like a structured corporation, driven by consistent reinforcement and strict control. Jurors studied everything carefully, taking notes whenever prosecutors pointed to Prince's suspected role. Prince entered the courtroom daily with calm eyes, walking slowly while surveying the entire space like a man who anticipated every step ahead. He sat straight at the defense table, sometimes leaning forward slightly while listening to witness testimony. He stared at witnesses without emotion, causing several individuals to shift uncomfortably in their seats. His posture remained steady during long sessions, showing a discipline he maintained throughout the entire trial. Prosecutors described his stare as intimidating, although he rarely said anything beyond quiet comments to his attorneys. Judge Thomas Platt reportedly watched New Jack City during the trial, seeking additional context regarding the environment surrounding crack operations across New York. This movie helped him understand how crews structured business during the mid-'80s, giving him a cultural reference similar to the RICO allegations tied to the Supreme Team. He used this knowledge to evaluate testimony about vials, rooftop lookouts, and codes used by sellers. His interest in understanding the broader setting added depth to his handling of the proceedings, keeping him informed about the realities behind the charges. Tension increased as rumors circulated about jurors being followed outside the courthouse, causing security to strengthen procedures around the jury box. Federal marshals monitored hallways, elevators, and parking areas tightly, preventing any attempts to influence decisions. Inmates cooperating with prosecutors faced threats inside detention centers, and one witness was reportedly stabbed during a fight involving jailhouse politics. These situations created fear among individuals preparing to testify, pushing marshals to move them between facilities during late-night hours. The government recognized the danger and heightened protection around key witnesses. The trial lasted several weeks, featuring testimony from officers, agents, analysts, informants, and individuals once connected to the organization. Prosecutors laid out their case through consistent presentations that highlighted Prince's alleged involvement in murders, assaults, and high-level distribution. Defense teams attempted to challenge credibility, focusing on inconsistencies and motives of cooperating witnesses. However, the weight of evidence carried strong influence over the courtroom, shaping the atmosphere into a tense space filled with quiet anticipation. Each day brought new details that aligned with the government's narrative. After deliberating for multiple days, the jury returned guilty verdicts on racketeering, narcotics trafficking, and several violent acts tied to enforcement operations within the Supreme Team. These convictions ended Prince's long run of success in courtrooms, placing him under federal control with no chance of immediate escape. The judge delivered 7 life sentences, ordering that Prince remain in federal custody until death. The courtroom fell silent as the sentence echoed across the space, leaving family members, reporters, and detectives stunned by the severity. Prince listened without emotion, maintaining the same posture he held throughout the trial. Reactions varied across the room, with prosecutors expressing satisfaction privately after years of frustration chasing cases that collapsed earlier. Officers exchanged nods, grateful that the federal system secured what state courts failed to achieve. Supporters of defendants displayed disappointment, some whispering quietly while others stared at the floor. The ruling delivered closure to law enforcement who pursued the Supreme Team for years, constructing a case that proved effective at securing multiple sentences. The streets responded instantly once news reached South Jamaica, spreading whispers that Mr. Untouchable finally touched as people processed the end of Prince's reign. Older hustlers discussed the verdict at corners where stories about the Supreme Team once shaped conversations daily. Young hustlers studied the downfall as a sign of how federal pressure could crush even the strongest crews. The legend of Prince shifted into a cautionary tale, setting the stage for everything that followed inside maximum security prisons across the country. Prince entered the federal system carrying the type of reputation that traveled through fences faster than paperwork, placing him under watch immediately as guards evaluated his threat level. His first stop came at USP Lewisburg, a facility known for hard inmates and strict routines that shaped new arrivals quickly. Lewisburg held violent histories, controlling prisoners through tough staff, limited privileges, and heavy restrictions that tested men daily. Prince moved quietly through those first weeks, studying faces, noting patterns, and understanding the rhythm of locked environments. Transfers eventually pushed him toward Allenwood, another federal institution known for housing a mix of violent offenders, hustlers, and leaders from major street organizations. Allenwood carried long hallways, noisy tiers, and controlled recreation yards that forced inmates to choose their alliances carefully. Prince kept a small circle, speaking only to individuals he trusted from Queens or nearby boroughs. He avoided unnecessary drama, observing power moves happening across units without injecting himself into every conflict. His calm posture made other inmates curious, prompting whispers about his background and alleged influence. His final major transfer brought him to USP Big Sandy, one of the most dangerous high-security prisons in the United States, located deep in rural Kentucky. Big Sandy operated with intense violence, holding some of the toughest inmates from East Coast cities, southern states, and Midwest regions. The facility enforced strict 23-hour lockdowns during certain periods, keeping prisoners inside small cells with limited movement or conversation. Life inside Big Sandy demanded discipline, patience, and awareness, traits Prince developed long before entering federal custody. Rumors spread that Prince encountered members of the preacher crew while inside, leading to several fights that guards attempted to stop quickly. These alleged confrontations fueled stories about stabbings and riots, involving inmates carrying long histories from New York streets. Some tales claim Prince got targeted during early weeks due to old tension involving individuals connected to Queens. Others claimed he held his ground during fights that broke out unexpectedly inside crowded day rooms. These stories traveled through cell blocks, shaping his prison image even further among inmates who admired displays of courage. Violence remained common inside Big Sandy, with inmates forming quick alliances to survive constant threats from rival groups controlling different sections of the facility. Guards locked down units frequently, responding to assaults involving homemade shanks, fists, and improvised weapons. Prince stayed alert, navigating these unpredictable environments through measured steps that kept him alive during chaotic events. Younger inmates watched how he carried himself, studying his quiet reactions during emergencies and sudden alerts that forced everyone against walls. His experience became a guide for many men seeking direction during stressful moments. In prison, Prince built a reputation as a jailhouse lawyer, spending long hours reading law books inside the library or his cell. He filed appeals for himself and helped other inmates prepare motions, grievances, and legal arguments presented to judges across the country. Some prisoners said he wrote petitions with impressive detail, helping many secure sentence reductions or improve conditions. His knowledge grew naturally, fueled by years spent fighting cases earlier in his life. These skills gave him a new role inside, replacing the street leadership he once held in Queens. Prince wrote letters to family members, describing prison life and giving reflections on choices that shaped his journey. Some letters expressed frustration with certain situations, while others focused on lessons learned through harsh experiences behind bars. He participated in a few interviews through phone calls with podcasts or small media platforms, exploring the history of New York's crack era. His voice sounded calm, showing clarity gained from years spent thinking inside confined spaces. These calls circulated among fans of true crime and street documentaries, keeping his name alive outside prison walls. Rumors floated that Prince held hidden wealth protected by individuals who trusted him since the mid-80s, creating conversations about money never recovered by law enforcement. Some claimed he stored cash overseas, while others suggested certain Queens residents safeguarded property connected to earlier years. These stories lacked proof but continued spreading through neighborhoods where nostalgia mixed with imagination freely. People believed he held secret influence that guided smaller crews from afar, reinforcing the myth of his continued power. Inside Big Sandy, younger inmates viewed Prince as a symbol representing strength, discipline, and street intelligence developed during the crack era. These men often approached him for advice about conflicts, survival strategies, or personal development. His presence commanded attention, pushing many to treat him with respect drawn from his past leadership and calm demeanor. Young prisoners seeking direction saw him as someone who endured battles with law enforcement, rivals, and courts without losing composure. Street tales outside prison claimed that Prince still pulled strings from the inside, guiding moves through coded messages passed during calls or visits. Some said he approved actions involving smaller cliques operating across Queens, while others suggested he mediated disputes between older figures connected to past alliances. These tales added layers to his legacy, blending truth with fantasy circulated through barbershops, bus stops, and prison yards. Many believed he retained influence, even as restrictions limited his physical reach. These rumors grew easily due to limited information available about his actual prison life, pushing people to fill gaps with their own interpretations. Most updates came through scattered letters, secondhand comments, or rare interviews that revealed small pieces of his reality. Silence created fertile ground for assumptions, fueling legends that expanded without clear boundaries. The lack of confirmed details helped craft stories that shaped Prince into a mythical figure inside and outside the walls. Prince's years behind bars formed a new chapter, marked by harsh routines, dangerous encounters, and ongoing fascination surrounding his name. Big Sandy became the setting for his rebirth as a prison legend, redefining his story among men who studied the crack era closely. His presence influenced many inside, marking him as a figure whose impact extended far beyond Queens. Prison yards carried stories long before paperwork confirmed anything, creating rumors that Prince had been killed inside one of the federal institutions holding him. Some tales claimed he got stabbed during a fight involving old rivals who followed him into Big Sandy. Others insisted he died after a brutal beating that guards tried to stop too late. Inmates traveling through transfers repeated these stories confidently, acting like the details came from first-hand conversations with staff. None of these claims held proof, yet they spread easily through streets hungry for information. Online forums joined the mix, posting threads that misidentified random inmates as Prince, creating false reports that gained traction quickly. Certain bloggers shared unverified articles claiming he died from illness, citing prison conditions that worsened his health. These articles circulated without correction for long periods, leaving people confused about his actual status. Fans of street history treated every rumor like a possible update, searching for confirmation through social media accounts linked to old Supreme Team affiliates. The release rumors spread with equal intensity once someone posted a claim suggesting Prince would walk free in 2024. Old interviews got clipped and reposted, creating confusion about timelines and legal outcomes from his RICO case. A Source magazine report mentioned his name in a way that fueled speculation, convincing many that his release could happen soon. Family statements rarely surfaced publicly, leaving supporters to guess what information remained accurate. People studied federal inmate locators every few months, searching for his name during late-night conversations. Federal silence created more confusion, giving space for imaginative theories that stretched across social circles in New York. Some believe the government hid his status intentionally to prevent speculation around his potential movement. Others thought Prince requested privacy during older years, choosing silence as a shield from public attention. These theories mixed freely with real facts, forming a cloud of uncertainty that strengthened his mystique further. Silence shaped the narrative more than official statements ever could. These rumors existed due to scarcity of verified updates, allowing legend to grow naturally in places where information rarely flowed cleanly. Prince became a magnet for myth-making, especially among younger generations fascinated by lost figures from America's crack era. His long sentence, past victories, and quiet prison life created a character that drifted slowly into urban folklore. People projected their own ideas onto him, forming an image that blurred the line separating man from myth. His name lived like a ghost, moving through stories shaped by fear and deep admiration. The narrative tied back to the intro, showing how a life filled with violence, intelligence, and mystery transformed him into something larger than a single person. Prince existed physically in a cell, yet existed spiritually in stories told across decades. His legend became a mirror for the streets, reflecting ambition, danger, and silent consequence in every whispered memory. South Jamaica changed after the crack boom ended, leaving scars that remained clear on blocks once controlled by the Supreme Team. Abandoned buildings stood near playgrounds where children grew up unaware of battles fought outside their doors. Families suffered heavy losses, with mothers raising sons alone after fathers vanished into prisons or graves. Victims of past violence faded from conversations, becoming footnotes in a history shaped by survival and forgotten trauma. These wounds traveled through generations, shaping the community quietly long after sirens stopped echoing nightly. The Supreme Team left a major imprint on hip-hop, influencing fashion trends, slang, and lyrical storytelling across New York. Rappers referenced Prince in tracks that highlighted the power and danger carried by his name. The rivalry between 50 Cent and Murder Inc. added another layer, with Supreme Team history influencing tension that spilled into studios and boardrooms. Old legends shaped narratives inside mixtapes, music videos, and interviews conducted during the early 2000s. Prince's presence lived inside lyrics describing ambition, betrayal, and street authority. Prince's real life differed from the myths surrounding him, creating a complex portrait that mixed discipline, violence, and sharp intelligence. His actions built fear across neighborhoods, yet some individuals respected the structure he imposed. This duality shaped discussions about his legacy, creating debates about leadership, survival, and impact. People admired the order he maintained while acknowledging the destruction attached to his rise. This made him a symbol of moral ambiguity, representing the complicated weight of power during the crack era. Younger generations romanticized those decades without recognizing the bodies buried beneath every story. Many admired the clothes, jewelry, and street fame from that era, ignoring the cost paid by communities left wounded. Their fascination focused on glory rather than consequences, creating narratives that skipped the pain carried by families who lived through violence. Prince's legend played into this cycle, showing how myths survive when details remain hidden. The narrative came full circle when exploring the forces that shaped Prince's path. He emerged from poverty shaped by early teachings passed through 5%er circles. He became a leader feared by rivals, guiding crews through intense years that redefined crime across Queens. He outmaneuvered the system repeatedly, surviving trials until federal prosecutors built a case strong enough to cage him permanently. His name drifted between fact, fear, rumor, and legend, carried through decades by storytellers fascinated by the cracks between truth and imagination. A quiet reflection settled over his legacy, highlighting the cost of power inside forgotten neighborhoods. Control came with heavy consequences, leaving destruction that outlasted the wealth created during the crack era. The streets remembered everything, even when official history overlooked names linked to painful memories. Prince remained a reminder of danger, influence, and ambition, carved into the story of South Jamaica forever.